G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Continuing on with a chronological recounting of the activities of 11 and 20 Squadron RAAF Catalinas operating from Port Moresby. And a bunch of advanced operating bases as well as places along the Australian east coast. Today being 79 years after the 3rd of May 1942, we begin with aircraft A2420. Unit history states Catalina aircraft A2420, Captain Squadron Leader G. Hemsworth, Second Pilot Sergeant Coulter J. Travel and reconnaissance flight from Bowen to Townsville. No details available. So I don't know how long it took them. Don't know when they lifted off. Don't know when they touched down. Don't know if they went from there to there via there. Just don't know. Now looking at Moresby, aircraft A2414. A reconnaissance by Catalina aircraft A2414, Flying Officer R.M. Hurst, Second Pilot, Pilot Officer A.C. Fleming, 20 Squadron, airborne, Port Moresby, 03:15 hours local time, and proceeded to Rathmines, which is there, alighting at Bowen en route. There we have Bowen, and was waterborne at Rathmines at 17:20 hours local. Flying time 14 hours 15 minutes. Also from Port Moresby, A2418, which is event G chart number 1. Okay, so once again, there we have Port Moresby. There we have letter G, pointing to that tiny little dot right there. Below that, the business about event G chart number 1 is apparently, maybe. No, I was right. I'm finding it incredibly easy to get confused while working my way down the column because they haven't put any spaces in there. And for the purposes of using the photocopy to show chart number 1, guess who was reading, or was not reading from the carefully marked photocopy. Mea culpa, all my fault. However, here's what we were looking at. Reading from the operational unit history. A search for a missing B-26 in the vicinity of Trobriand Island and a general reconnaissance was carried out by Catalina A2418, Captain Squadron Leader R.A. Atkinson, Second Pilot, Pilot Officer T.L. Dugan of 20 Squadron. The aircraft was airborne at 0600 local and waterborne at 1715 local. Missing aircraft was located in a clearing at the south end of Kirawina Island. Now, that appears to be right there, if we can believe chart 1. So there we go. That's where the B-26 was crashed, in a clearing. Survivors of crew were picked up at Sinakit, capitalised, Sinakit, and reported Squadron Leader Gurney and Lieutenant Heron of the US Army Air Force were killed instantly when the aircraft overturned after a run of 100 yards on soft ground. The bodies were buried beside the crash and were irrecoverable. And the only other real advance we've got gleaned from chart number 1 is that Squadron Leader Gurney, who was killed, was a Royal Australian Air Force Squadron Leader. So it was a mixed crew aircraft. And there was also from Moresby, A2412, A reconnaissance by Catalina aircraft A2412, Captain Flight Lieutenant N. Fader, second pilot officer Tiny Lowbridge, was airborne Moresby 0600 local and waterborne Moresby 1753 hours local. Only sighting was of a 50-ton schooner in Baxter Harbour at 08 local time. Flying time 11 hours 53 minutes. So there we go. I managed to recount those two in reverse order, but you know, such is life, Ned Kelly, such is life. And I note that A2412, we have no idea where Baxter Harbour is, where he went, how far he went, or anything else other than the fact that at 8 o'clock in the morning he saw a schooner. And at Catalina cruising speed, say 120 miles an hour, 2 hours is anywhere in that distance there. So let's just assume that Baxter Harbour is somewhere along there. Such is my guesstimation of my interpretation rather than interpretation of what went on 79 years ago, 3rd of May, in the Battle of the Coral Sea, as concerns 11 and 20 Squadrons Royal Australian Air Force, who were operating something like 24 Catalina flying boats between the two squadrons. A total of 168 Catalina flying boats were eventually brought into service by the RAAF. The original order was for 18 aircraft. First delivery was March 1941 and completed by October the same year. The next 12 were delivered between March and July 1942. So 18 plus 6 minus 2, because at this point, one aircraft has already been bombed and strafed on the water at Tulagi, towed to Guadalcanal and scuttled, and another one has been jury-rig repaired on the spot and then flown back to first to Bowen and then to Rathmines for permanent repair work. So, yeah, maybe 22 aircraft, 24 aircraft available on the third official day of the Battle of the Coral Sea, but let's call it day 5 as far as the RAAF were concerned. So these proceedings are hereby adjourned, and I will return tomorrow with another chronological episode in the series. And we have operational unit history records going forward for another 10 days. So this will be continued. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.